Good morning, Syracuse. Good morning, Central New York. My name's Carl Sterling at the studio today. I love being in the studio. And I have with me my co-host, Elizabeth Brusa. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Glad to be here. It's always great to be here.
It is.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. And before I forget, Kyla, our producer, is awesome, and I don't always remember to thank her. And there's our guest we're going to have soon. Great. Okay, we're connected. So, Kyla, thanks so much for your help. You do an amazing job. All right, gang. So, I've been looking forward to this show today. We have a special guest. We're going to bring him on shortly. And first, though, I wanted to talk with you about a couple of things here. And that would be that, you know what? I'm going to talk to you about the guests we have coming on because I can't find my notes. How do you like that? Well, we have 2 hours. We're going to get to everything. You know, ADHD is real, but I'm managing it fairly well, I'd say. And one thing I do want to say, though, is we've had some wonderful guests on in the past few months, and I really appreciate everybody listening because we're having, very high ratings. Since you started joining me, too, I think the ratings went up more, Like Dr. Berry says, you make me look smarter than I am.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. So, I'll tell you what, folks, without further ado, I'm going to bring on a special guest. I started following this gentleman, actually, not that long ago. I don't know where I was that I didn't see him until earlier this year. And then I'm like, holy cow, this guy is amazing. And plus, he's a really cool guy. And so his name is Dr. Sean O'Mara. And he's a medical doctor. I know emergency room physician. And he's doing stuff that's just amazing. We're going to talk like all things fat today. There's one thing that I've noticed, which is when I talk with people about fat deposits, where they have subcutaneous or visceral or the intramuscular, which has another name, I can't remember that, or, the fat in the liver. A lot of people get those things confused, especially the visceral, and they think maybe it's that stuff around your waist you can grab. That's not what it is. But visceral fat is a bad kind of fat. We don't want to have it. We don't want to have it in excess, that's for sure. And we're definitely going to learn a lot about that today. So, Dr. Sean O'Mara, thank you, sir, for joining me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Carl. How are you?
Really well, thank you. Very well. And this is Elizabeth over here. So, see, folks, we're on video here, but you're on audio, obviously, because it's nice to have the visual so that we can signal breaks coming and all that kind of stuff. So, Doc, we talked last month for a while, and I've been watching your videos. You've been on some big shows, so I appreciate you saying, or being on this show here. I mean, thank you so much. What was your inspiration to get focused on cellular health? And I know you have a story to go with this from your medical training and what you were doing in your own health maybe 10, 15 years ago. What was your inspiration there?
Sure. So, I was an emergency medicine doctor and at the time that my inspiration happened. And, tangentially, I've had exposure to people that, just like anybody else, you might have bumped and heard about people that have gotten healthy, lost weight for a period of time. But I wasn't prepared for what was going to happen to me. I had never met anybody that had the same experience that I had. So what happened was pretty much the story of many people around my age. At the time, I was about 48, and I had experienced steady decline in my life in terms of my health. And I was putting on weight. I remember being an ER physician bringing in just like a dozen apples, trying to eat apples to lose weight, drinking skim milk with chocolate Hershey powder, and in the milk to lose weight. I was doing everything I can to cut out fat. Well, I just continued to get fat. And it was very frustrating because I had never been previously a fat man. And here I was, 48, and I was fat and big belly sticking out and declining health. My back was, I had chronic back pain. I had erectile dysfunction. I had enlarged prostate. I had arthritis, degenerative joint disease, eczema, Barrett's esophagus, which is, I had a severe form of it where I'd had heartburn and had metaplastic changes, which are precancerous lesions that were transforming the cells in my esophagus. So I had a pretty advanced case of that and had to be scoped every 3 months with an endoscopy where they'd put a big garden hose down my throat and do biopsies. And I also had restless leg syndrome, kick my legs all night long, obstructive sleep apnea, I'd snore. So I was a mess and entered this 17-year-old. I was at the time working out in a fancy gym that our hospital system had built attached to the hospital. And it was a beautiful gym, and all the doctors or all the fat doctors are in there working out with me. I remember the bariatric surgeon was in there, the guy who did surgeries on stomach bypasses, and he was overweight. He's trying to exercise himself into condition, and I was doing the same thing. And there was this young man that would be in there, and he'd always leave. He'd only exercise like 5 minutes, and he'd go out the door. And so finally one day I talked to him, and he told me, I asked him, how is it that you're so healthy? And he told me to do 4 things. He told me to sprint, cut out carbohydrates and eat the paleo diet, get outside in the sunshine, and eat fermented foods. So if you're listening today and you think about those 4 things, you're probably not doing that. And you probably have never done that. And I had never heard of anybody doing those things. And so I gave it a go, and thank the good Lord that somehow I was able to do those things, particularly the fermented foods, which are not something that are easily acclimated. You easily acclimate to, or that you have a strong desire. It's not like he's telling you add in ice cream or pizza or something into your diet. Sure. Fermented foods were very foreign to me, but I gave it a go and I did those 4 things. And within 1 year, I noticed that all my medical problems had gone completely away, had reversed. I was no longer standing in front of a toilet dribbling a urine stream that was the weakest urine stream. It looked like just this pathetic, stream of urine. It would dribble all the way, wetting my pants. I'd waking up 5 times a night, and it all went away. And it wasn't placebo. That young man did not tell me, do these things and your medical problems go away. He said, do these things and you'll lose weight. Well, what I wasn't prepared for is all the disease to go away. So here I'm now, 1 year down the road, having done those things. And I reflected on the fact, it was kind of a realization that my medical conditions had reversed. And notwithstanding the fact that, I hadn't changed my medications, I no longer needed my medicines. And I decided that I needed to be a researcher. I needed to look into why this happened. Mm-hmm. How is it possible that I do these 4 things and all my disease goes away? I mean, I did not have a professional medical insight and explanation for what happened to me. So doctor, I couldn't find it anywhere in medical.
I have to interrupt books. I have to interrupt you 1 second because we have to go to our first break, and I'm sorry. Yeah, but you talk about medical books. Yeah, that's something I definitely want to hear about, what you didn't see in the books. My son's also an emergency room physician. And the two of you could exchange a lot of stories together about what you didn't learn in school and then what you learned since then, right? So, because we're all on the same page. So you're listening to Your Health Matters here on News Radio 570 WSIR. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with Dr. Sean O'Mara. Okay, we're back. We had Dr. Sean O'Mara. Doctor, let's continue. We're talking about stuff in school, like in the books and in the classes in school. You didn't learn a lot of the stuff that you teach now, right? And that you've implemented.
No, I did not. And that was what it was my biggest confrontation when I experienced relief from my medical conditions, that there was nothing that was nothing that I had learned in conventional training in medical school, my residency, or in taking care of patients had really any kind of a contribution for me getting better. It really was attributable just changing my lifestyle, doing those 4 things. So I thought it was incumbent upon me as the recipient of this benefit to study it and try to figure out from a medical standpoint how that happened. So I became a researcher. I moved my family to Minneapolis, and I took a job full-time. Volunteering wasn't a job. I volunteered full-time in a medical research practice studying the reversal of chronic disease. And I did that for 7 years, getting up 4 a.m., working until 7 p.m., volunteering, not taking a penny. And I have 5 kids. I had to take care of those 5 kids. So I worked part-time 3 days a week in a urgent care, try to make some money for my kids. So I tell that story because that's how much it meant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, who goes and volunteers and does something 7 years full-time unless they're really passionate about it? And so my passion was because I got so healthy. And I wanted to be able to explain this to other people because I did not believe that this was some sort of miraculous healing that was only meant to, for Sean O'Mara. I felt like there was a certain lifestyle that had been revealed to me and that these strategies could, in fact, reverse chronic disease for everybody. So when I started to research that for the National Science Foundation, we proposed, certain innovative biomarkers to follow these interesting areas of fat inside the body. And we tracked it against chronic disease using the strategies that I had benefited from doing for about 3 years previously and reversed my disease process. And in fact, it was duplicatable. So what does that mean? Everybody who came to us in that study that we enrolled, that we had them do those things, in fact, eliminated chronic disease from their life.
Wow. And
And we did that for 6,000 Americans. 6,000.
yeah,
And it's profound. And I think now it's absolutely criminal that medical school does not teach these 4 areas of fat. If you're listening today, I'll tell you what I believe, that it is purposefully kept from medical school because doctors aren't even trained. Don't believe me? Ask your doctor to point out the fat around your heart, the fat in your abdomen called visceral fat, the fat in your muscle that's called myosteatosis, or just human marbleization, like your steak, steak that you buy at a restaurant,
like a rib.
gets marbleized.
Yeah.
Ask, ribeye. Ask your doctor, can you point out if my muscles are being marbleized? And your doctor won't be able to. And worse yet, neither will your orthopedic surgeon who deals with muscle, and neither will the radiologist who's reading your MRIs and CTs. This is shocking that these areas of fat. And by the way, I don't own this. You own this if you're listening today. Sounds like I'm getting you set up to go buy some link.
Nope, I love it.
The heck with that. I'm not. I'm telling you, you own the disease in you that's being kept from you. It's inside your body, and your doctor doesn't know about it because it's kept from him in the medical system from their training. So if you're listening today and you're routinely listening to Carl, or you just happen to be tuning in, this is your lucky day because you can find out about these dangerous areas of fat inside your body that we'll be covering and discussing, and you can work to purposely get rid of it. So out of the 6,000 people, every form of chronic disease that those Americans had, either was substantially improved or was completely eradicated when they eliminated these 4 areas of fat. So we were funded by the National Science Foundation. We donated all of that money for the study. My research partner, Dr. CJ, and I never took a penny. We donated all our time and effort for the sake of humanity to do this. And today, it's my life passion to go around speaking about and try to increase awareness of these dangerous fat. And let me just tell you, it's not cholesterol. If you engage in a conversation with your doctor about cholesterol, you are simply being sidelined and distracted from whatever, from what really will change it. And let me just set it up this way. Okay, world, 8 billion people out there. Question, Mr. Skeptical or Ms. Skeptical, listen right now. You think cholesterol is so good? Well, out of 8 billion people, it's the most profitable class of drugs ever developed. Name one person that ever improved their life or their disease taking the most profitable drug known to man. Can you? Well, that's because they have got us all diverted talking about cholesterol, and what we should be talking about is the deadly fat that's inside of you that you don't even know about because your doctor doesn't know about. The system is keeping people from being aware of this. So I'm very passionate about this. This is my life passion. And I'm going after the system by trying to reach as many men and women who really want to live a better quality of life. And I will say in my 30 years of being in medicine, nothing will improve a human being more than getting rid of this dangerous fat, visceral fat, heart fat, muscle fat, and the fourth one is deep subcutaneous fat. And you just don't know. I mean, you step on a bathroom scale, you lose weight, you don't know whether those numbers that are going down, is it water?
Right.
Is it muscle? Is it dangerous fat? Or is it good fat? And yes, there is good fat. There are certain types of fat that you want to have that literally, get this, will make you look more attractive and reduce the amount of disease in your life. So you need to stay tuned to this show so you can learn about good fat and bad fat. It's not all the same. And you hear the term fat and you think it's bad and you got to get rid of it. The type of fat you want to get rid of, they never tell you about. They just tell you about cholesterol, that type of fat. And the one really good fat that you really want to have, they don't tell you about that either. But Carl and I are going to talk about that so you get the benefit from listening to this show. And hopefully it will not only optimize your life, but it may in fact save your life.
Man, Doc, I got to tell you, that's the reason you're here now with me. First of all, thank you for saying yes to my invitation, is because I love your passion and your commitment to going after the system, to making change on a large scale in the world, in society, especially the westernized. But, everywhere's westernized now pretty much, but not as much as we are because we're here. So we have at my clinic, our clinic, Elizabeth and me, we have this device we use that measures things like total body fat, segmental body fat, segmental muscle mass, total muscle mass, visceral fat, hydration level, metabolic age, bone density, mineral density. And the one thing it doesn't do that I wish it did, but maybe I'll upgrade to another system if we can figure out which one actually does it, is something that measures I always get the name wrong. I'm just going to call it the marbleized muscle and let's say the intramuscular fat, because we know it's there. If any of us were dissected as we, look at muscle, we'd probably have some marble. So in any case, I was wondering if you could get into, and of course we're talking to radio here, but I do see a screen there and I like what I see because I've been watching you on countless videos of looking at through, let's say, a total body MRI to see where the fat resides. And what can we do? Like, let's talk about what fat is the worst. I've been under the impression that visceral is probably the most dangerous. What are the drivers behind it? Cortisol seems to play a role, but what other things? So if that's the case, cortisol, maybe we have high anxiety and stress and it's killing us. Where does it come from? Why is it bad? And how can we get rid of it? Now, we're only about 2.5 minutes before break. Let's get started with this.
Yeah, sure. So let's get into it. So for the sake of the audience, the radio audience, what we're taking a look at is a slice through your abdomen. Sort of like if you cut your body in half and you took a wedge out of it, it looked like a pizza pie. So one surface is your abdomen, the other surface, large surface, is in your back, because when you go through an MRI scanner, you're laying on your back and your belly's pointing up. Well, if you look at that slice, the white, because anything in any fat in an MRI scan is going to turn out white. The white that you see in the deep part of your abdomen surrounding your organs, like your intestines, your colon, your kidneys, your liver, things like that, that's visceral fat. And so it shows up as white if you're watching the video right in the middle. Dark things are either your muscle or your organs. So that could be your intestines, your colon, your muscle tissues, and your bone also shows up as dark. So you want to be, when it comes to an MRI scan on your body, mostly dark inside, not a lot of fat inside your abdomen. So if it's in your abdomen, you can't feel it. So we'll distinguish it. We're just a few seconds. I'll say the point you want to distinguish is fat deep in your abdomen from fat outside your abdomen, underneath your skin. That's called subcutaneous fat. And maybe when we get back from our break, I'll tell you a little bit more about subcutaneous fat, the fat, the pinch the inch type of fat that's underneath your skin that a lot of people know about and see.
Mm-hmm. Like my love handles. So, yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, we got a few seconds here. I'm just going to say that I took your advice, which we'll get into this. I know we're going to get into the sprinting and other things, because I started doing that. I got to tell you something. My visceral fat finally went down into the high end of the normal range after about 4 months. I'm so happy because I don't want high visceral. So anyways, folks, we'll be back with Dr. Sean O'Mara. You're listening to Your Health Matters here in WSYR 570. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right, we're back. And Kyla, thanks again for making everything here so easy. You make our job easy. So, folks, there's something I want to talk to you about that we do at our clinic, and it's called frequency therapy. I've been a practitioner for 7 years. I learned about it first when I was in Europe, one of my many trips there to teach. And basically what it is we have these little patches that can go on you, right? And these little patches are about the size of a quarter, maybe. We can use these for a lot of different things. It's a revolutionary way to boost your health and well-being. So it's an alpha biogenics frequency therapy. That's the name of the company. Now, you can't buy it from the company unless you're a practitioner. I'm a practitioner. It's a cutting-edge solution for relieving pain, stress, overall vitality. These innovative patches harness the power of frequencies, which work on your body's natural energy fields to promote healing. They help also with reducing inflammation, and they will help to enhance physical and mental performance. You just apply the patch, and it just does its work. We do a lot of pain management in my clinic because rather than getting sliced and diced from perhaps an unnecessary surgery, which seems to be happening a lot, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm in no position to judge. All I know is that I talk with doctors a lot. We have doctors on the show often, and they will tell us there are many unnecessary procedures that have happened with not so good results. And of course, there's a time and place for everything where you do need to have a surgery and you will get the result you want, hopefully, right? So I'm not dissing surgery. I got 2 new hips. I needed them. They're great. But A lot of times we can get to the source. And if it's not diet causing inflammation, and it's something else causing inflammation, and your lymphatic system's blocked up, you've got all kinds of inflammation and edema maybe, or just pain. Well, we work with pain. We have many different techniques to help, including the frequency therapy. We can help you improve your sleep. We're good at this. To increase your focus. We help people with vertigo, anxiety, immune system, virus guard, Hashimoto's, kidney function, and much more. Even an appetite suppressant. All right, so frequency therapy is non-medical, non-pharma, no drugs, just natural frequency. If you want to learn more, just go to carlsterling.com. That's Carl with a K. Send me a note, text me, email me. Send me a note from there. Set up an appointment. Come in, get assessed, because this is game changer stuff. Recently, they started offering bracelets. I have a bracelet, and guess what? Maybe that's part of the reason my visceral fat is down, because I have had anxiety issues for a long, long, long time. And managing them has not been easy. I'm not a good meditator, but I do meditate in my own way. My mind is very busy when I do it, but people like Matt Gutman, Dan Harris, and some others, you've probably heard those names. They've taught me some, and you're going to hear those shows airing soon because I already recorded those two with the ABC News guys. So come in and check it out. The bracelets will last like 2 or 3 years. You know, it's really cool. We're talking today with a very special guest. I'm so glad he's with us here today, Dr. Sean O'Mara. We're talking about fat, good fat, bad fat, and let's continue, Dr. O'Mara. Let's continue where we left off. We were talking about fat.
Yeah, so let's try to explain the different type of fat and how you can kind of get a rough idea about the fat and understand what we're talking about. So let's divide fat into two areas. One is fat that's deep in your abdomen. Okay, the only way you're going to get access to that is to do surgery or to do an MRI to see inside of you. Okay, so it's deep. Another way to describe it is like deep belly fat or invisible obesity. Emphasize that term, invisible obesity. What's that mean? You cannot see it. It's fat you can't see. If you can't see it, you definitely can't feel it. So it's very, very different than fat that's called subcutaneous fat. Sub for just below, cutaneous, just below the skin. That fat you can both see and feel. Pinch and inch. Remember that little phrase, pinch and inch? You can grab these rolls of fat or a little bit of layer of fat or a big, gigantic, huge amount of fat. That is subcutaneous fat. Okay. That's very different than the fat that's deep in your abdomen called invisible obesity or visceral fat. The medical term, just so I can sound a little more sophisticated, is visceral adipose tissue. Visceral adipose tissue. But you'd be better off just thinking of it as visceral fat, and I prefer you to use that particular term. And let me just throw it in a challenge. If you've got any medical condition, you just go to your Google box, your Google search or ChatGPT or your favorite search engine, type in your medical problem, visceral fat, and then hit return and see all the studies that come up showing the contribution that visceral fat is playing with your medical condition, and you'll be astounded that this is being kept from you. Mm-hmm. It's all in science, but the doctors just don't know about it, neither do you, because they're not telling you about it. So visceral fat, you can't feel it, you can't see it, it's deep in your abdomen. The subcutaneous fat, you can feel, and you can see it because it's kind of fat on the outside. Now, as it turns out, the stuff deep in you is the stuff that's really bad. So there are people we call them, TOFIs. Thin outside, fat inside, TOFIs. Thin outside, fat inside. So those are people that are skinny and have this deep visceral fat inside them, and they don't know it. So they're walking through life thin. They think they're so good, then they drop over dead of a heart attack or have a heart attack or get cancer. And so you cannot tell by the size of your body whether you have one of these deadly fats, collection of fat going inside of you. So as it turns out, TOFIs have a higher level of mortality than people that have a lot of fat on the outside. I'll repeat that. TOFIs who are thin have a higher degree of death than people that have a lot of fat on the outside. That's kind of crazy, but it's true.
Yeah.
So the fat on the outside is not as dangerous as the fat on the inside. But we should qualify it a little bit because as it turns out, the fat that you can pinch, the subcutaneous fat, is actually made up of two specific but very different types of fat. And that's divided into a category for just two terms. One is superficial and one is deep. Superficial and deep. So your doctor, they don't know about visceral fat. They don't know about deep subcutaneous fat or superficial subcutaneous fat. So superficial subcutaneous fat actually protects you from disease. It protects you from disease, and deep subcutaneous fat is almost exactly like visceral fat in that it causes disease because of all the inflammation it generates. So we should explain that when we come back from the break and get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fascinating to me because I did not know until I, stumbled upon you earlier this year about those two layers, superficial and deep. So very, very insightful. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back with Dr. Sean O'Mara to talk more about fat and how it relates to our, let's say, our longevity, or even more so, our health span within our lifespan. Okay, this is News Radio 570 WSYR. My name's Carl Sterling. We'll be back real soon. We're back. You're listening to Your Health Matters. We have a very special guest today. His name is Dr. Sean O'Mara. And, well, doctor, let's keep going. Let's keep going on the flow. So I think we left off talking about subcutaneous superficial layer on the outside and then deeper, and the deep is bad. Let's keep going.
Correct. So your superficial subcutaneous fat is right up next to your deep subcutaneous fat. And for the benefit of anybody watching this video, you can see in this image a black line going between your subcutaneous fat. And right now I'm pointing to love handles, those fat collection that you can feel and you can see above your butt, around your iliac crest and your back. So love handles, everybody knows where they are. You can grab them. And right in the middle of it is this membrane that separates these two collections of fat. And so the difference between them is what gets secreted. What are they making? What are they doing? So the deep subcutaneous fat I mentioned before our break is a lot like visceral fat. It secretes inflammatory molecules. That's what is causing and leading to chronic disease. So the inflammatory molecules are really less important, but just in case anybody's like, they want to know, cytokines, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, resistant, and all these inflammatory molecules that are being secreted and manufactured by this collection of fat, the fat called deep subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. And it's also in the muscle fat that we talked about too. All three of those and fat around your organs like heart fat, cardiac fat, ectopic fat. It's got a variety of names. But those four areas of fat secrete these inflammatory molecules. Well, what about the superficial subcutaneous fat? I mentioned it secretes substances too, and as it turns out, it doesn't secrete the inflammatory molecules. It secretes heads up, get ready, write down on a piece of paper. You're going to want to write this down because the system doesn't want you to know this. It secretes adiponectin, just like it sounds. Ready for the spelling? ADIPONECTIN. So, sounds like I get ready to sell you a supplement. No, your body makes it. I'm just going to tell you where it's made in your body so you can help cooperate with your body, because you know why? That stuff protects you from heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, neurodegenerative conditions, MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and even obesity. It's great stuff. You can't beat this adiponectin, and you want to have it, but you need to know about it, where it is, and how to increase it if you're going to benefit from it. And guess who doesn't want you to benefit from it? The people who sell you pills. Big pharma. Once they find out about how to secrete adiponectin or create a medication that's a synthetic form of it, you'll know all about it. But until that happens, silence and crickets. But you don't have to wait for it to do. You just have to listen to Carl's show today, and you'll learn about it.
Well, I have a question. I want to interject. So this is the thing I wanted to start off with in the beginning of the show, and I just found my scribbles of what I wanted to say. But this is actually a better time to say it. And, you know, if you're listening to the show often, I've heard this, it's like a broken record. I don't know how we can move the needle on this other than having guests like Dr. Sean O'Mara on the show to educate us and enlighten us as to what the truth really is. Now, I hope you don't mind, Doctor. I'm just going to say one of the guests I had on recently is Dr. Casey Means. She wrote a book called Good Energy. There's a Marty McCary last week, Dale Bredesen a couple of times. There's a common theme showing up, folks, and Dr. O'Mara is also sharing this thing with us. And it's, if you're first of all, we have a lot of baby boomers. I'm a boomer. I'm 63, right? But I don't want to be a statistic and just another one who's, overweight. I already been there in my life 15, 16 years ago, and I was huge. I don't want to be that way again. But the pills that are out there for every person with type 2 diabetes, my understanding from the data, the data says they're on average taking 4 other medications, or they have 4 other chronic conditions because they're diabetic. But nobody's addressing how do we get rid of the fat. No, we just give pills. And again, there's a time and place for everything, okay? So think about how many people you see out there. I guess today I'm in the mood. I'll just really dig in. How many do you see who are just taking pills and they're just thinking the pill's going to work? There's another gentleman, I saw him out walking last night, and he doesn't really believe that exercise is going to help him, and he's taking only pills. It's not helping. Plus, the rates of dementia, cognitive decline, Parkinson's, they're all going through the roof. And it ain't going to slow down anytime soon unless we turn things around with things like what you're going to be sharing with us. So I had to interject that. I'm sorry, Doc, but let's keep going. Please, let's move along and continue.
Completely agree. Dr. Means is awesome. I'm glad that you had her on, and she's making the rounds all over. So, yeah, hopefully one day I get to talk to her, and maybe I'll follow her around. She seems to be hitting all the right places. So it's good that she came and spoke to you in your show. So we're talking about this superficial subcutaneous fat and why it's so beneficial. This molecule, adiponectin, Big Pharma doesn't want you to have it because if it can keep it from you, you just keep adding to your collection of pills, like Carl was talking about. It's remarkable. If you got a family member, a parent who's a little bit older, who's gone to spend like 30 years, 3 or 4 decades going to the doctor, here's what's happened. Their bag of medication just gets bigger and bigger. They get more and more bottles. They keep adding to it. Well, is that what, really we're supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be falling apart? No. you should actually be improving as you get older. So I wrote a book about it called Growing Better, Not Older. And you can read that book, growingbetternotolder.com, at that website. It's a cheap electronic book, so you can go and get some insights about it. But back to this superficial subcutaneous fat and adiponectin, you want this molecule going around to protect you from mortality and disease. And here's an interesting thing. I've done quite a few shows on adiponectin, superficial subcutaneous fat. Do you know what happens when you get liposuction? So a lot of women think they want to have a pretty belly by getting rid of the fat that lines their abdomen, and they go in and unfortunately get it sucked out through liposuction. And when they do that, they end up sucking out a lot of their adiponectin. So heads up, guess what happens? Big regret. They end up getting more health problems and falling apart when they did that. Now, nobody warned them that that was going to happen. Nobody told them you're going to be losing beneficial superficial subcutaneous fat with its beneficial molecule adiponectin. But here's the real interesting thing. If you're a lady right now and you're listening and you are contemplating having liposuction, I want you to be aware of this. Guess what will happen to you when you get that removed? You ready for this? You're going to get a dude face. Yeah, dude face. You're going to get a face like a man. That's what happens. Don't believe me? Well, go right now to Google, jump on women with six-pack abs. Look at these women that have six-pack abs, no superficial subcutaneous fat, and then look at their faces. You know what they do a lot of times? They chop their heads off and they just show their abdomen. Why? Because they got a dude face. They're not attractive. When you lose that adiponectin, you lose your healthy appearance and you lose that effeminate look. Now, take you back to history. In the Renaissance period, the greatest artists painted women who were a little heavy on the outside. Cherubs, cherubic-looking women. They had very pretty effeminate faces, and they sculpted them as well. Because of the increased abundance of superficial subcutaneous fat and adiponectin, they got very pretty faces. And so they were the subject of some of the best art that we've done. So there's a famous model named Yumi Nu, and she was on the Sports Illustrated, I think, 2022 edition of the swimsuit edition. And she was controversial because Yumi is a big lady. She's got a lot of excess fat around her. Well, you know what she doesn't have? A lot of deep subcutaneous fat. Why? Because look at Yumi's face. She's a lot like the statues and the models that were created during the Renaissance period in the 1500s. She's got a very pretty face, but a large body. So that's a rough indication for you if you've got visceral fat, because it will make your face unattractive. So when this starts developing inside of you, you're going to get unattractive. And I'll just come out and say it, ugly. Visceral fat makes you ugly. So this is another reason why you want to be aware of it. Get rid of that visceral fat, because it's going to deteriorate your appearance and your ability to influence people in your life.
Wow, man. And I just pulled her up. I'm looking at her. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Man, this is amazing. We got another hour to go, folks. We got another hour to go. This is like the most informative show ever for me. We're both writing down notes here. It's great.
No.
Thank you, Doctor. And, okay, so you're listening to Your Health Matters here on 570 WSYR, also on 106.9 FM. We're with Dr. Sean O'Mara, Elizabeth Brusa. My name is Carl Sterling. We'll be back after the news break at the noon hour. Thanks for listening. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining. And today we're with Dr. Sean O'Mara, who we're going to bring on in just a minute or two. Oh, man, what a fun first hour that is.
Very
I
important.
think it might have been the most informative and fun time I've ever had in this chair. Seriously. So I got a couple of things I want to mention. First of all, we have a relatively new sponsor for the show, and the name of that sponsor is PowerPlate. PowerPlate uses precision wave technology to send tiny vibrations through your body up to 50 times a second. And this vibration training activates more muscles, burns more calories, improves circulation of blood flow, lymphatic flow, and even fascial fluid flow. And it helps to assist in muscle recovery while it's helping you to build muscle. It also helps to build bone density, bone mass. It helps to bring those DEXA scores into a better place, DEXA scan scores, along with the biodensity, who's owned by the same parent company, who's also sponsoring our show. And if you've listened to the show, we've done a couple of episodes about biodensity, which is a safe and controlled approach offering the benefits of high impact without risking the heavy lifting or jumping. So injury is like non-existent on this thing. Regular use of biodensity improves the structures of the body. The mechanical, as Dr. Peter Attia says, the mechanical action of max osteogenic force loading, or just pushing the most you possibly can when you're doing the various exercises on these machines, because it's an isometric contraction where you're going to produce 6 to 7 times the amount of force than you would doing full range of motion chest press, leg press, and so on and so forth. You're loading your muscles, and the mechanical action of this helps to create the hormonal reaction, estrogen, testosterone, and things, to create soft bone, trabecular soft bone tissue. And, we've had the machine for a year and 4 months, and we have had, starting in February, we've had countless people come in, and they're showing us their DEXA scans and their T-scores are improving. Some people are completely out of osteoporosis, osteopenia. We're the only ones in the area with it. I'm the weirdo. I was going to say we're the weirdos. You're not weird. I'm the weirdo.
Not a weirdo.
We have to do things that are not normal, because normal gets normal results. In fact, talking about not normal, we need to normalize what's happening with the information we're getting from Dr. Sean O'Mara on this show. Because I said, Dr. Jason Fung told me the other day, I was talking with him, he says, why is it that humans could maintain pretty much the same body weight for hundreds of thousands of years, and just the past 50 years, all of a sudden, 97% of us are too big, too heavy, not good. You know what I mean? And so, welcome, Dr. Sean O'Mara. Thank you for being with us. Welcome to the second hour. We're going to take, also, folks, I want to tell you, we're going to take some not call-ins. I don't do call-ins. We're going to take text-ins. If you have questions for Dr. O'Mara, you text me, 315-935-7488, 315-935-7488, or go to carlsterling.com, Carl with a K, the number's on there. All right, Doctor, welcome back. What's next?
Thank you, Carl. Good to be back. Quick plug for Dr. Jason Fung. He's absolutely brilliant, one of the most intelligent doctors. Love Dr. Fung. I'd like to say we're like good friends. I know him personally. I don't. I just know him professionally through this particular space. But yeah, he and I think very much alike.
Yeah.
And I look forward to maybe one day meeting him, and maybe we'll do a show together and collaborate.
Oh, you guys got to get together.
Yeah. Dr. Fung is right. There's an enormous change in our species. And at some point, I'm going to offer a theory what is going on. It can't just be explained by our diet. It's not just the fact that our food choices have changed dramatically, and they have, but there'll be something else. But before I do that, just want to kind of build credibility, build intrigue. If you've listened so far to the show, I want you to hang in there so you can get to some of the solutions that we'll be getting to. But I just was talking about faeces and superficial subcutaneous fat, and how when you make the mistake of eliminating superficial subcutaneous fat, you lose the ability to project your health in your face. So our face is actually a healthometer. What does that mean? It is actually a meter of how healthy we are. It's one of the first things it presents to another human being that says, I either live good or I'm living bad on the appearance of your face. So every human being listening should want to have a face that looks healthy and is attractive, because it not only advertises how you're living your life, but it actually becomes an extension of how effective you're going to be as an influence to people you meet. And you might say, oh, that doesn't really matter to me. I don't care how I look. It should, because if you care about other people and you want to try to help them out, they're not going to listen to you as well if you have a lot of disease in your face. Well, how do you have disease in your face? Well, you get inflammatory face. So here's what you can do. I mentioned the term you, me, new. Okay, that model. Carl pulled it up. You can too. You can find Yui New on the internet and look at her face, and she's a big woman. You'll see her body is big. Well, let's compare her to another big woman, another public figure, Mama June, okay, from Honey Boo Boo. If you remember that show, Mama June, I think she's gone up and down in weight. But when she was the heaviest, she did not have a pretty face. She would not have been on Sports Illustrated. Why is the difference? Visceral fat. Now, Mama June actually improved her appearance considerably because she lost a lot of weight. So when you get rid of a particular type of fat, visceral fat, or deep subcutaneous fat, or myosteatosis, which is human marbleization of your muscles, the fat that gets deposited in your muscles, you actually improve the quality of your health, and your face reflects it. So take a look at these two photographs. My figure on the right here, and my figure here on the left. This is me with visceral fat. This is me after, and you can see those in my websites and my social media accounts. But big change.
Yeah,
we'll get into more at the next break when we come back. Why my face changed so much? I actually gained weight and improved my face. Gained weight, my face got better looking. We'll talk more when we come back about that.
Doc, man, I love you. You're the best. The other thing, there's a thing that I've been saying for a while, and I didn't know why, but there is a certain look or set of looks, could be spider veins, could be a lot of around the nose or cheeks, but these different things that people walk in with a certain face or coloration or maybe inflammation. And some of the public figures out there, like Joe Rogan and some others, and I love Joe, but I mean, he doesn't look good. I'm worried about him, and I want to talk more about this face stuff because this is such an indicator for us, right? So we got to go to break. We'll be back after this short break. Thank you. We will take text-in questions for Dr. Sean O'Mara, 315-935-7488, and I'll repeat that as we go. For, let's see, next week we'll be live. A few weeks after that, I'm not sure which ones. We will be playing some shows that I have already recorded, and I want to tell you about some of the people coming on. Dr. Jason Fung, he will be on. I talked with him 3 days ago, and it was really great. He's written a lot of great books, the Obesity Code, the Cancer Code, the Diabetes Code. Dr. Michael Greger, Matt Gutman from ABC News. I caught him in between trips internationally. He talks about anxiety and panic attacks. Former ABC News correspondent Dan Harris, author of 10% Happier. That's coming out. I talk with him. He's great. Dr. Keith Shanahan. Dr. B, I think he's pronounced Bushwitz, maybe. Aubrey de Grey is coming on. Aubrey de Grey has been on Joe Rogan. He actually has a lab in Lafayette, New York. Can you believe that? He's not there, but his person who's there is going to join. Dr. Terry Walls is coming back on the show. Dr. Oz is going to do the show, probably January. And probably Andrew Huberman, because he's on a new book coming out. Finally got a positive yes from them, but we just don't know when. So stay tuned, folks. Right now, though, I'm having the most fun I've ever had in this chair listening and learning to Dr. Sean O'Mara. Doctor, man, you're amazing. Let's keep going. So you're talking about your journey here now. We can see a screen here, but listeners can't. You gained weight. You must have put on a lot of muscle and burned a lot of fat.
I did. So the fat I burned wasn't superficial subcutaneous fat. That's the good stuff. The fat I burned was actually deep subcutaneous fat, visceral fat. So I'll pull my shirt up. The radio audience can't see that. I got a nice shape to my abdomen, but what you don't see is a six-pack. But you would see it if I did an MRI scan. So I've got a nice oval shape. It's flat, but I've got this layer of protective fat on my abdomen, and what it does is makes my face more healthy looking. Now, the other way to describe it, I don't like to say it this way. I don't mind saying I have a healthy looking face, but the other term to say is I have a handsome face. And if you're a woman, it's a pretty face. And that's important in life because we're all influencers. You got kids, you got grandkids, you run a job, you run a company, you do some kind of work, you got a team. And if you have an unhealthy face, it's like you're going to be carrying sandbags around doing your job. You're just not going to be as effective in your role, being able to influence people if you got disease in your face. So let's get America healthy. Let's get America attractive. We were a much more attractive species when we didn't have all this disease going on. So unfortunately, one of the most strongest recipients of disease in an age group are the elderly. Why? Because as they've aged, they've got more disease. And when Carl and I were young people, we were taught to revere the elderly and we would visit them. We respected them. And today, the elderly complain there's no respect for the elderly. Listen, let me just be real. It's not the young people's fault. It's your fault. You're filled with disease, and your face says, pay me no matter. I don't know how to live. I live incorrectly. And then you expect the young people to follow you, your advice, and pay attention to you when you're riddled with disease. Well, maybe you think I sound hard. Nope. I'm trying to give you the answer so that you can get back to being that loving grandma and grandfather or consultant or CEO. You're heading up a company and you're worried about the youngsters coming up who are going to displace you out of your CEO role. Well, do something about that, which is something that's most exploitable thing you can do that you've never done anything about, and that is optimize your health. Get rid of visceral fat. Get rid of deep subcutaneous fat. Get rid of steatosis, which is muscle infiltrates in your muscle, and get rid of ectopic fat, fat around your heart. Get rid of those four players. You're going to be way healthier. You're going to look way more attractive and be more healthy. You'll be more articulate. You'll be more persuasive. People want to listen to you. People will want to buy from you. People will want to follow you. And so that's what we're meant to do. Help people out in our lives. And if you're filled with disease because you got these four areas of fat in you that was kept from you, you're not going to be as influential and able to help people as you are if you get rid of it. So I make a big deal about this. Appearance is important. And so my face is how much I change is just an indication of how I see in all my clients, patients that come to me and work with me, when they get rid of this fat. You've seen people that sometimes lose weight and they don't look good, almost like they've gotten cancer. And some people, because they lose weight the wrong way, they hold on to their visceral fat and they lose their superficial subcutaneous fat, and they just generate a lot of inflammation in their body. So the MRI gives fidelity. It amplifies what's going on so you can see the changes within you. So I hopefully have persuaded you, if you're listening to the show so far, or you're just tuning in, to pay attention, because I want to get into some things that you can do to start getting rid of these dangerous areas of fat inside of your body and to increase the beneficial fat that is really good for you, that's also part of your body, called superficial subcutaneous fat, with that beautiful molecule adiponectin. So one of the first things you need to do is stop eating processed foods. Stop eating processed foods. We got to do this. We haven't eaten as a species for most of our existence, and now suddenly processed foods come around. They are designed by engineers who are compensated, ready for this bonus, they get a piece of the pie when they create food that's more hyper palatable. So when sales go up, it's the food engineers that get a bonus, and they're incentivized to create this wicked, evil food. So you need to get yourself delivered from eating this bad food and get back to eating more ancestrally. Even two generations ago, our grandfathers, grandmothers, they food in whole form. They didn't have processed foods. Today, they're all over. But I made the point that it's an oversimplification to attribute this to just processed foods. There's other things going on.
Sure.
And so one of the things that's changed the most, besides the type of food we have available to us, here comes another big word. Grab a pen, write it down. Microbiome. microbiome. Microbiome is a collection of microorganisms that live inside your gut. So they're living microbes, bacteria, fungi, viruses, yeast, archaea, and other forms of life that we're still going to identify at some point, that make up about 4 to 5 pounds worth of weight in your body and amount to about anywhere from 50 to 70 trillion right now, and it keeps going up.
Oh, yeah.
Organisms that are inside of you. So you only got 10 trillion cells, but there are about 55 to 7 times more organisms inside of you. And so that's an important part of the discussion awareness you need to know, is that you're mostly more other organisms than you are yourself. And so you have to live differently to understand how you can contribute to your microbiome, attracting better microbes and turning away and not getting so many bad microbes. Birds of a feather flock together. You want to get good ones and not get the bad ones. We'll talk more to that in the next break, what you can do to help optimize your microbiome and get rid of these dangerous fats that are inside your body.
Perfect. Yeah, she was going to ask you that, and then she just wrote me a note. He answered it. Wait, at some point, though, I know she has a question for you if you don't address it first. So we're going to go to break, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the VO2 testing we do, submax and max, VO2 max, and also resting metabolic testing, because we're running a special on it until October 14th, I believe. I'll let you know in a minute. We'll be back after this break. All right, welcome back. You have any questions?
No, he's answering all my questions.
Yeah, this is the least talking we ever did, and it's beautiful because he's got this down, man. Folks, I got no text messages. I got one call, though, but it's 315-935-7488. If you have a question for our guest, Dr. O'Mara, text me. We're running a special until the 18th of October for VO2 max testing, VO2 submax, and resting metabolic testing. It's really hard to get that around here. Most people who, do it a lot of them are coming from out of town, okay? So the price is, the lowest price, we can't go lower. It's $250. It covers the max test, the resting metabolic test, a consult with the metabolic expert who's a bona fide genius, and a meal plan to go with it, which is going to be customized to your desires, your data and your goals. And, of course, they're not going to be putting things you like in there like potato chips. They won't do it. They're going to put things in you need to eat. And it's going to definitely lean paleo to the paleo arena, if you will, ketogenic. So, depends on who it is, though, but for most of us, it's going to be that. So we're with Dr. Sean O'Mara. And I forgot to say, if you want to have a test, just go to carlstirring.com. That's Carl with a K. Send me a note, and we'll get you set up. Okay. Doctor, thanks for everything, and let's keep going, because we're starting to get into some things we can do to change the situation. Like if we have a lot of this bad fat, the deep subcutaneous or the visceral or the marbleization. What do you call that one again? I call it intramuscular because I never remember the other name.
Yeah, myosteatosis. So myo for muscle, steatosis for fat. So it's muscle fat, but it's not end cap. It's not the fat around the muscle. It's the fat that gets deposited in diseased muscle. So when the diseased body is eating food, it's going to start laying down these fat depots in the viscera around your organs, surrounding your colon, your intestines, and that's why you get irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel syndrome, and you get diarrhea and constipation. And it's why, if you're listening today and you live long enough, you'll end up in diaper because all that visceral fat inside you. But if you get rid of your visceral fat, your colon, your rectum, your intestine, your GI tract will stay nice and healthy. And it all comes down to that inflammatory fat. And believe it or not, your colon, your intestines, your anus all have muscle tissue in them. And that inflammatory fat goes inside that muscle. So you really want to, how you live your life dictates where the inflammatory fat goes and whether the good beneficial fat gets accumulated on just underneath your skin and beautiful subcutaneous fat. And listen, it is beautiful. Kids, I tell my adult clients, if you want to know what you'd look like if you're healthy, look at your kids. And I tell the kids of my clients, if you want to know what you'd look like when you're older, look at your parents, because they're just more diseased versions of what you're going to be. And kids and babies have beautiful subcutaneous fat, super healthy, beautiful skin. You ladies listening today, wouldn't you like to have the skin you had when you were younger as a child? But this inflammatory fat comes in and starts destroying your tissue. And heads up, think about yourself when you're 90, your face will be skin and bones. You'll be a skull with thin skin and no subcutaneous fat. So while you're thinking about doing your liposuction, getting rid of that glorious subcutaneous fat, you really want to be thinking about that beautiful superficial subcutaneous fat that you want to be encouraged and retained. So you're very elegant and gracious looking when you're 80 and 90 years old with your beautiful gray hair, and you're a healthy influencer to your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. So superficial subcutaneous fat gets deposited in the human being that lives a good life. Bodybuilders, heads up, no way. If you're into cutting and carving out and shredding yourself so you can see all your tissue and your six-pack, you're getting rid of your superficial subcutaneous fat. And yeah, muscle tissue is healthy, but it's why bodybuilders don't have this dramatic, benefit to mortality and suppression of disease when they build this muscle, because they're losing concomitantly at the same time that superficial fat. So bodybuilding is just another end to body dysmorphia. Anorexia, no muscle, no fat. Obesity, all fat, and less muscle, and muscle hypertrophy in the bodybuilder. What you want to be is the Tarzan and Jane of the 1960s. Johnny Weissmuller, thin layer of fat. We didn't have actors that had, six packs back then. They had this little coating of fat. And if you look at, the Maasai and tribes that live in nature, They don't have a six-pack. As soon as you see that six-pack, that's unnatural. They're shredding too much. So get that. And how do you get that superficial subcutaneous fat? It's the same way that you get rid of deep subcutaneous fat, bad fat, visceral fat, which is bad, and the same way you get rid of fat around your heart and around your organs. And it really comes down to this, the microbiome. So the better you live your life, it's not one thing. Oh, I just went vegan and I'm going to be so healthy. Oh, I just went on the carnivore diet. I'm going to be so healthy. You'll get a little bump. But that's like going to school when you're in kindergarten and say, I'm just going to learn English, not doing math, not doing history, not doing economics, not doing biology, not doing anything else. Listen, if you want to live a healthy life, you got to do a lot of things. Our ancestors knew this. But when it comes down, try to simplify so you don't get overwhelmed. The microbiome, the choices you make contribute to the organisms that are going to live inside you. All right, let's try to simplify that. How do you get these organisms in you? Well, walking, going out in sunshine, doing a sauna, doing some cold plunge, doing some maximum intensity exercise, sprinting, weightlifting. Those all contribute positively to good microbes. Want to know how to contribute the bad ones? Eating ice cream, sitting down on the couch with your fat fanny, feeding your mouth with pizza, okay? That's going to contribute to bad microbes. Not exercising, staying in a room that's lit with LED lights instead of going out in sunshine and doing a hike out in nature, getting fresh air. Those all, the bad things contribute to bad microbes inside of you. So the more beneficial microbes you have in you, the better looking you are. Heads up, the better living you are. And this is what it's about. Life is meant so you're thriving. A lot of people just survive. They're just getting by. And there's even a category below that where people don't even want to survive. They're so depressed and so disease-ridden, they're thinking about, I want to check out. I don't want to live any longer. They could even be suffering from suicidal ideation. Get those people healthy. Instead of giving them pills that are antidepressants, they'll have hope, they'll live better, they'll want to live longer. So you want to get these healthy microbes in you. And to kind of give you, let me just tell you, one of the things I'm big on is besides the visceral fat and fat adipose, is the microbiome. So if you're heavy and you got a lot of disease, your problem isn't because you're obese, it's because you're infected. You're infected with microbes inside of you that drive you to eat ice cream, muffins, donuts, cookies, cakes, rice, potato chips. It's not your fault. You're infected, and that's why you're not getting better, because no doctor is teaching the infection. We'll get into getting a good infection to treat the bad infection when we come back.
Awesome. Doctor, I have 3 questions to think about for when we come back from listeners. Okay. Can brain fat help with balance issues? From Andrew, age 90. Our friend Danette. Hey, Danette, what's up? How do we start improving the microbiome? Do probiotics or yogurt help in microbiome? And the last one before we go to break is, doesn't the brain run on carbs? How can we cut out carbs totally, and should we do that? So those are 3 questions we can go over. In the last segment, you're listening to Your Health Matters. I'm with Elizabeth Brusa. Dr. Sean O'Mara is our guest. We'll be right back. Okay, one more time I want to thank Kyla. Thank you so much for making this job so easy for us. She's so awesome. Okay, we have a question. We're going to get some of these questions answered here. And thank you, Danette, for your questions. How do we improve the microbiome? Let's see. Do probiotics or yogurt help with this? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and they do. I'm a much bigger fan of yogurt than I am probiotics. Probiotics, real quick, they just are not enduring enough. They don't last well enough, and the studies are pretty poor. trying to suggest that they do. But in one study that sequences feces, they've yet to find a probiotic supplement that makes it all the way into the feces, into the rectum that was introduced through the mouth. So what you should do, yogurt, kefir, fermented kimchi, fermented sauerkraut, and fermented blue cheese, Roquefort, aged cheeses. That's a better source for your probiotics.
I'm cheering because I love blue cheese. Okay, next question is, I'm so sorry, I just hit the wrong button here. Doesn't the brain run on carbs? How can we cut out carbs totally? And I'll just rephrase, I'm going to say, should we cut out carbs totally?
Yeah. So the brain does require sugar, but it requires a very small amount. You only need about 1.5 teaspoons of sugar in your body, and you get that from your liver. Your body makes the sugar. Don't be getting it in the store. It's crap. When your body makes it, it's good. So let your body make the small amount of sugar that you need. And ketones. Ketones are a much better source of energy that will fuel your body. So you only need fat and protein. You die without them. You don't need carbohydrates. They're not an essential macronutrient. So cut them out and you thrive. So don't buy the lie. You don't need the carbs. Eating fat and protein is where it's at.
I'm so glad you said that. Thank you. And I just remembered after you said that, we were talking off camera the other day with Dr. Fung about this. The average pump of syrup from a Starbucks or wherever latte has 10 grams of sugar. Now, if you get a large or venti, you got 5 pumps. That's 50 grams of sugar. And with the other stuff in it, it's like 63 grams of sugar in one drink. And I did the math on that, and it comes out to something like 10 teaspoons. And if you do one every other day, so you have 7 in 2 weeks, you consumed 1 pound of sugar. That is no wonder. So 26, 2 weeks, okay, 26 pounds of sugar a year if you go every other day on a latte. I'm just saying, I just had to say that. Okay, the next question is,
yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And it's just killing us because the insulin is shuttling that stuff to the fat cells, and then it's just depositing it there, and we just can't handle it. Okay, we have another question here. Can brain fat, I'm not sure what this means, so please, the person who texted this, I'm just reading what you wrote. Andrew, age 90, can brain fat help with balance issues? And I don't know what kind of balance, if it's physical balance or other balance.
Yeah, about 2/3 of the human brain is actually fat. So your brain helps you interpret your balance. So the healthier your brain, the healthier your balance is going to be. One test of balance is to stand on one foot with your eyes closed. If you get rid of visceral fat, muscle fat, deep subcutaneous fat, your ability to stand on one foot with your eye closed will dramatically improve. So you'll see how much better you get when you get rid of this inflammatory fat.
Oh my God.
So absolutely, balance is a great measure of how healthy you are. And the healthier you eat will contribute to where that fat goes, whether it's good or bad, and the quality of the microbes inside of you. So there's so much to health. That's why you got to stay listening to Carl and his show so you can learn about all these interesting aspects that nobody else is talking about. The system, your conventional doctors don't want you to know about this. And here's your test. When you start listening to this show and learn about these things, you're going to start living better. But if you just keep going to the conventional healthcare system, your quality of life is going to go down and you're not going to be living better. So you need to have access to this kind of information that is just not commercially available. So it's really important. That's why I accept invitations to come on shows like this to get this kind of content out there so average Americans can learn about this and benefit from it. It's so important. It all comes down to your choices, how you live your life, and understanding the way you should be living, which is more ancestral instead of following the modern day scourge that's out there. So super excited to be here today talking with Carl and be able to share this content.
Well, I have one more question. Except at first, while you were talking about that, both Elizabeth and I are standing on one leg with our eye closed. Eyes. We're thinking, hey, are we healthy or what? I mean, this is pretty good. So that's really interesting. Last question, supplements. Let's talk about them real quick. Are there any that we should take, or what should we be doing there?
Yeah, so supplements are generally the best form of nutrition you should get is from natural form. So you want to try to get, if there's any supplement you're interested, look for a food group. A piece of meat usually is the best source to get those kind of supplements. But there are a couple that I'm really fond of. I like NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's something because the FDA and Big Pharma doesn't want you to know about it.
Yeah.
And they even tried to ban it. So anything that they're trying to ban is usually heads up. You probably should be taking it because guess what NAC does? It helps to eliminate visceral fat. NAC, N-acetylcysteine. You can get it. Just Google it on the internet. It's one of the better supplements you could take along with magnesium because most people are deficient in magnesium. And a new one that a lot of people don't know about